One of the most common questions I get from trans kids is if I'm happy. And it always breaks my heart because the reason they're asking it is usually because they have been inundated with anti-trans rhetoric about how trans people are unhappy and how detransition is so common and how even trans people who transition are still unhappy. And the reality is that most trans people who transition are happy with their transitions. For most people, transition is life-saving and all the research and science corroborates that.
You're talking about the past, my friend. You're talking about a time when we gave a gender transition to chronic gender dysphoric people, but today we're handing out a medical transition to people without gender dysphoria. And it's a huge problem. We already know how essential it is to give a patient the right type of medicine, the right type of treatment, so why is this different? A gender transition will only benefit the people with chronic gender dysphoria. Chronic gender dysphoria is so unbelievably painful and unbearable that the only thing we know so far that could treat it, or at least alleviate it, is a gender transition. However, if you're not feeling gender dysphoric, but you are dealing with borderline, bipolar disorder, if you're autistic, a survivor of sexual assault, or anything else that has nothing to do with gender dysphoria, this type of treatment will not help you. If you've experienced something traumatic regarding your body, changing genders will not benefit you. If a person is dealing with a personality disorder, or is on the spectrum, is coping with trauma, and they are convinced that they're trans, there's a possibility that the right professionals can talk them out of going through a medical transition. If that's even possible, it's so important that we try to do so. A gender transition should be the absolute last resort, but that's unfortunately not something that we see today in the medical space, in the therapist mental health space, because apparently we just need to affirm. Something that's always left out of the conversation is the individuals with chronic gender dysphoria who hasn't experienced anything traumatic, is not on the spectrum, or has a personality disorder. They would always, no matter how critical you are, they would always be gender dysphoric. And if the patient is in a lot of pain due to gender dysphoria, you cannot talk them out of feeling this way. Therefore, being critical of the patients who seek help at trans clinics will be a good and healthy thing. The individuals who would actually benefit from a medical transition will receive it, and the people who won't will get the proper help, which has nothing to do with transgenderism, transsexualism. I don't know about you, but I think it's a no-brainer. I have a huge problem with what he said in the beginning. He's painting the picture that highlighting detrans stories is anti-trans rhetoric. I just want to ask him, what's the matter with you? Where's your compassion for these people who used to be a part of your community and need now, more than ever, your support, your love, your tolerance? Where is it? Every single time that the trans community finally talks about detransitioners, they show absolutely no compassion, acting extremely cold and narcissistic. It's narcissistic when your rhetoric includes, as long as I'm happy, I don't care about you. The treatment benefit me. So I don't care if it didn't benefit you. Again, as long as I'm happy, everything's fine. And it makes me sick to my stomach, especially because the community claims to be so open and tolerant. We all know it's bullshit. I of course think it's a good thing that children who think that they're trans are now more exposed to detrans stories. They need to understand that going through a medical transition is not all rainbows and sunshine, and especially in their situation, they would most likely end up as a detransitioner if they actually, go on medication and get surgeries. And it makes sense because children do not know who they are. Teenagers don't know who they are. That's the point of growing up. It's the point of being a teenager. You're trying to discover yourself. And we should let these kids and teenagers discover themselves without any medications or surgeries. Again, it's a no-brainer.
That's one of the reasons I chose to share my story as a trans person, is because I knew that so many people have a very wonky version of what transness looks like. We are actually just humans trying to survive in this world just like anybody else. And does that mean we also have pain in the world? Sure. And trans people actually have more pain than the average person. Why? Not because we're trans, but because of transphobia. See, the root of most trans people's pain in the world is actually not that we are trans, but that other people don't like that we are trans, right? Transphobia, anti-trans violence, and so on.
I cannot stand this argument that, oh, trans is beautiful. It's really not. It's like saying that, oh, depression is beautiful. The mechanism that makes someone trans is the medical condition gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria feels like pain 24/7 and you can't escape it. That is not beautiful. Again, you have a responsibility to tell the truth to the children you feel the need to talk to about all this. Unless you are living in anti-LGBT countries, transphobia has nothing to do with why being trans can be painful, or why it is painful. And that's problematic because then children get the idea that they don't need gender dysphoria to be trans, and therefore they can just transition medically, surgically. And that, as you all know, will create a lot of detransitioners in the future.
Most parents unfortunately erroneously believe that they can protect their child by telling them not to be trans or saying that being trans is wrong, when in reality, we need to tell the world that transphobia is wrong, not being trans.
Of course, transphobic parents exist, but I think he's talking about all parents who are critical of their children coming home saying, I think I'm trans, I need to do this, this, and that. It's actually your job as a parent to make sure that your child is okay. And if you're not being critical, and if you're not following your gut that's saying, I don't think that my daughter is a boy, I don't think my boy is a girl, then you have to do something about it. You have to push back. It's a part of being a parent. And of course, transphobia is wrong, but I don't think I would agree with him on what transphobia really is. And that's the problem.
Trans people are absolutely capable of living fulfilled and happy, love-filled lives, but in order to do that, we need a lot less transphobia, a lot more support. And so if you're an ally or a parent of a trans person, please understand that you providing love to them is so much more powerful than you trying to protect them by telling them that being trans is bad. Being trans is not wrong, transphobia is.
Again, we see activists lying about their opposition. No one is saying, really, that being trans is wrong. They're saying not all people who think that they're trans should transition. This rise in young girls especially wanting to be boys is unnatural. And we should not cut their breasts off before we know what's really going on with them. If you truly cared about people's mental health, if you truly cared that, I just want all people to be happy, fulfilled, with good mental health, he should wish that people got proper medication and treatment in general. It's impossible to treat all these people's bad mental health with only one type of treatment. If you don't agree with me, and you agree with him, that's on you. But you have to acknowledge how it doesn't make sense. But in general, I don't think that we should talk to children about any of this. Really, children should be left alone. Children are naturally naive, so let's keep it that way. Of course, it's healthy for children to be naive, and it breaks my heart that we have so many activists who are trying to make innocent kids not innocent anymore by shoving an adult ideology down their throats. It's unacceptable, and it needs to stop. Thank you all for watching this video. As always, leave a comment down below what you think. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you want, you can support me with a small donation under Super Thanks. I'll be forever grateful. So, thank you. I truly mean it. I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out.